primary ignition.
Welcome to Unlimited Power. My name is D-Rod, and here's my pre-release guide for Shadows of the Galaxy's newest leader, Gar Saxon. If this is your first time watching one of my pre-release guides, I always want to start off by saying this guide is going to focus on the commons and uncommons within Shadows of the Galaxy that pair well with this leader and their abilities. Yes, there's always going to be rares and legendaries that go really well with characters like Gar Saxon, but because in pre-release boxes you only get 6 booster packs, it's more than likely you may not pull one of these amazing cards with great synergy to play with Gar Saxon. So rather than focusing on some of those cards, we want to pay attention to some of the cards you're going to have easier access to. So let's go ahead and start with Gar Saxon and his abilities and what he does and what kind of cards we're looking for to kind of fill out a deck with him. So first off, Gar Saxon as a leader is a blue-black leader, villain and vigilance, one of my favorite color types in the game. He has a static ability that says each friendly upgraded unit gets +1/+0. That means this is active as long as a unit has any type of upgrade on it. Upgrades do include cards like shields, which are technically upgrade tokens, as well as +1/+1 counters, which are also upgrade tokens. Think of it this way. Because it comes on a card, it's considered an upgrade. You may not use the card, you may use other type of tokens to represent, but it does still count. So this means every unit that comes in with a shield on your side gets a +1/+0. That's really great and constructed, but we'll be looking at what cards bring this to the table in a limited format. Now, Gar Saxon, his epic action allows him to deploy when you have 6 or more resources. That means turn 5. When he does deploy, he's a 4/7 unit. He still has the same static ability that says each friendly upgraded unit gets +1/+0, and also gains when they are defeated, you may return an upgrade that was attached to the unit to its owner's hand. Now, that doesn't mean your token cards like shields and +1/+1 experience counters are going to go back to your hand that you can play for free later. Fortunately, those cards are removed from the game whenever the unit is destroyed. They don't go to your discard pile, they don't go to your hand. But this does allow for other upgrade cards that you may be playing in other formats besides this one to kind of get more recursion out of that, which is really good value. So now that we understand what Gar Saxon does, let's take a look at some key cards in his primary leader colors that pair well with them. The first one's going to be Brutal Tradition. So Mandalorian art right here. It's a 2-drop upgrade, which is great for Gar Saxon. And it says, as an action, if an enemy unit was defeated this phase, play this upgrade from your discard pile. It gives your unit +1/+2. With Gar Saxon, that makes your unit a +2/+2, which is already really good. Now, this is an okay upgrade. It really takes a penalty to the attacking power because it has the ability of coming back every time you defeat a unit. I think that's really cool. It's one of the first cards that we have in the discard pile that you want to pay attention to. If it's in your discard pile, defeat a unit, then make sure you're returning this back to your hand, allowing you to have an upgrade that's pretty consistent. This is an uncommon, so you should hopefully see about one of these in your deck. The next one is Super Commando Squad. So a 5-drop unit that's an Imperial Mandalorian Trooper. Really cool. Actually, one of my favorite things about Gar Saxon is he does have that Imperial Mandalorian trait. It already comes into play shielded, so it's going to get that +1 bonus from Gar Saxon. And whenever it is upgraded, it gains Sentinel. So when it's upgraded with the shield, has Sentinel. If you're able to put more upgrades on it, it's going to keep having Sentinel. And I think that's really great for this type of card, immediately making it a 5/4 when it hits play. And the last one in this column is the Client. So this Client I really like. I enjoy the idea that it can really benefit you and your units because you can give a bounty to any unit in play. You want to obviously give it to your enemies' units. And when you defeat them, you'll heal 5 damage from your base. This can be really beneficial. The Client has a good amount of health and immediately comes in with a shield. He will be a target for your opponents, but I like the idea that as the first swing on him with that shield means he's going to be hitting back for 3. That's really good early on when a lot of units may only have 3 health by the time they're out trying to swing on the Client. So really makes your opponent suffer for swinging into him. You'll probably be able to kill 1 unit, maybe 2 with the Client. And again, he's going to kind of be a target to pull your opponent away, and you'll be able to kind of keep some damage off your base from either them attacking the Client immediately early on or you using it a little bit more late game to kind of heal. In the cunning aspects, we're going to take a look at Hunter of the Haxian Brood. This one is a really popular one in the villain archetypes because he's a 3-drop unit that's a 4/3, and if an enemy unit does have a bounty at all, you're able to gain shielded. Now this is good if you have a client because you can give a unit the shield, or sorry, give them a bounty, play the brood, and he gets the shield already, making him a 5/3 because of Gar Saxon's ability. Really important here to use bounties to your advantage. The Hunter of the Haxian Brood's already good for a 3-drop though, but if you're able to use the bounties to your advantage, then you're going to see more value from him. The next one is a jetpack, an upgrade that's going to fit well if you go in the cunning aspect because you can attach it to your unit and it immediately gives them a shield, allowing as well as an upgrade. So you get 2 upgrades on the unit. The shield in this one gives it +2. Gar Saxon makes it +3, and it's pretty much telling you to swing in with the unit that turn, just because you do lose the shield at the end of the phase. But it's a good turn to swing into. Can really avoid any issues by swinging into bigger units without taking any damage. Big fan of this card. I think 2 is perfect, and I like that it has the smuggle mechanic. So if you don't have a unit to play pretty early on, smuggle this away, save it, bring it out for 4 later on. You can put it on someone as like Gar Saxon. Next is Frozen in Carbonite. Frozen in Carbonite is a great card. In this type of format, you may only see one, but as you can see, it's a great upgrade to play on your opponent's units. Attached unit cannot ready, and then as soon as you play it, you exhaust the attached unit. You can essentially lock out one of their bigger units that you're struggling to deal with, or one that you don't have an answer with later on. This is great once you've played your opponent one round and maybe have seen kind of what their big bomb is in there. Maybe it's a crate dragon, maybe it's Chewbacca, something to that nature that you just want to deal with and not think about anymore. Frozen in Carbonite's a great one for that. In the aggression aspect, I'm going to recommend Death Watch Loyalist. So it's a 3-drop 3/3 with Grit and Overwhelm. Unfortunately, in the aggression aspect, we don't see many cards immediately coming in with upgrades, so we want to use ones that really at least stay on theme and that may work as far as value. A 3-cost 3/3 is really good. Having Grit and Overwhelm, I'll take it. The Grit is a little bit rough with them having a very even pairing of health and damage, and that's okay. Just as long as you don't die, you'll be able to hit pretty hard. Next one is Armed to the Teeth. Probably the best upgrade in the uncommon slot for red. This card has the smuggle mechanic, so you know you don't have to play it early on. You can save it if you would like to. But once you do attach this upgrade to a unit, it gives the unit +2/+0. And when the unit attacks, you give another friendly unit +2/+0. So you're getting +4 overall every turn as long as you have 2 units that can stay alive and swing. One of those units is going to get that +1 bonus from Gar Saxon. So Armed to the Teeth is technically +3/+0 with Gar Saxon and giving you an additional +2. Big fan of this card. And lastly, in the aggression aspect is Detention Block Rescue. So a card that can deal 3 damage for 3 to any unit. All right, you have me sold. If your opponent happens to be playing a couple capture cards in a limited format, deal 6 damage instead. I think in limited, this is a strong card to grab. It's not as good as Open Fire, but it has the potential of really taking down some of those pesky units that have been taking some of your cards. So I think it's a good one to hold on to. And at a common slot, you should have 1 or 2 of them. Now, the Vigilance aspect is probably one of the best ones for Gar Saxon because he's one of those colors. But look at what it brings to the table. You already get Rival's Fall, the best removal we've seen in the game so far, and it sits at a common slot. Again, you probably are going to have 1 or 2 of these and you're going to want to play them. Not a card you should cut because it has the ability of removing any leader that gets deployed or any big unit in any arena. So great one to hold on to. Next is Cargo Juggernaut. Since you're playing a blue unit and this card's getting reprinted in Shadows of the Galaxy, it's a good one because when it comes into play, it can already heal 4 damage from your base as long as it sees another blue unit. Does not matter about the arena, just have to have 1 deployed or in play. It also comes into play with the shield, immediately making it a 5/6 before anyone hits it. So it works with Gar Saxon, gives you the healing. I'm a big fan of this. Maybe not one of my favorite art for showing what a Cargo Juggernaut looks like, but it really does get the job done. And lastly, in the Vigilance is Foundling, a common card that you can attach to a unit to give them the Mandalorian trait, as well as a +1/+1 buff. I think this card is going to be easy one for you to just put on units that you need to stay alive, give them Gar Saxon's +1 ability, immediately making them a +2/+1. Seems good. You should get a couple of these. This may also help if you end up grabbing more Mandalorian themed cards and filling out some other units that don't have the Mandalorian trait. Lots of potential there. We'll see a little bit here down the road. Green is one of those colors that do not have many Mandalorian cards, so I think this is a good one to use as an example that you'd want to play the Foundling upgrade on. When we look at cards in green, we're going to look at cards that really help us hit hard. So one of them is going to be Outflank. For 1 cost, you can attack with 2 units one at a time. If you've played in Star Wars so far, you've already noticed some of the value from cards like Rebel Assault. The ability to attack with 2 units in 1 move is really strong. Leia has this as her own ability. You can do the same thing here with Outflank. It's a great card to hold on to till the end, or in sticky situations when you're worried about keeping both of your units alive, knowing that your opponent can take out one of them. If you can start off a turn and swing with both units early, you're going to get a lot of value hitting your opponent's base, or maybe hitting another unit before they can disrupt your plans. It's a great card, not one you want a lot of, but worth grabbing 1 or 2 and putting it in your deck. Next is the Karax Heavy Fighter, a 4-cost 3/3 with Overwhelm. This card is pretty good for a space unit. I think it's worth playing because on attack, you can exhaust another friendly unit. And if you do, give this unit +3/+0 for the attack. If you're running into a state where your opponent has way more ground units and you're finding yourself in a weird stalemate, this is where the Heavy Fighter comes into play. You can make him stronger in the space lane, give him +6/+0, throw an upgrade on him if you can to give him +7. And if there happens to be a space unit in there you need to hit, that Overwhelm is still going to give you some value damage into the base. I think it's a good one to have. And it sits at the uncommon slot, so you'll probably be able to find one. Lastly is another Spark of Rebellion classic, Mercenary Company. A 6-cost 5/5 ambush overwhelm unit. Kind of does everything you needed to do when you play it. If you're able to keep it in play long enough to equip it with an upgrade, I think you'll see some more value there down the line. In the villain aspects, we're going to be looking at some of the basic cards here. 3-cost event, no bargain. Doesn't help you with Gar Saxon's ability, but does allow you to disrupt your opponent's plans while you're drawing a card. Because this is a limited format, every card does matter for your opponent. You may have them, they may have to discard the card that they were really hoping to play the next turn or 2 turns later, something that they've been holding on to for a while that they know they only have one of. This also allows you to draw a card. So in turns where you just don't have anything to play, but you have 3 resources, it's a good one. Speaking of 3-cost cards, Black Sun Starfighter really hits that mold there as a strong 3/2 Sentinel. It's great for the villain aspects to finally have this strong space Sentinel unit. I think it's going to be a good one and an easy one to add to your deck. Lastly is Hunt's Henchman, a 4-cost 3/4 shielded unit. You automatically make that a 4/4 because of Gar Saxon, really giving you value for the unit. If you can make it a Mandalorian with the Foundling card, even better. Continue to strengthen up some of these low-cost units in this format. And lastly, let's move on to the non-aspect cards, starting off with Mandalorian Warrior. With Gar Saxon, you're going to have a few Mandalorians, so might as well make that work for you by making them stronger, giving them experience tokens. Again, those are upgrade cards, so you'll get the +1 bonus from Gar Saxon himself. Essentially giving your unit a +2/+1 just by playing the Mandalorian Warrior. Next is the Rich Reward. Probably one of the good bounty hunts we see, and one of the few that are actually non-aspect here, because you'll be able to give an opponent a bounty that allows you to claim 2 experience tokens up to 2 units. So you can kind of continue to strengthen your units using Gar Saxon's abilities while playing a very low-cost bounty that doesn't benefit your opponent at all with that +0/+0 upgrade. So, lastly is Twin Pod Cloud Car. There we go. With the ability of 3 costs, and it is a space unit, you do see it flying through the atmosphere, but it's going to be space. It's going to be a 2/2 with Restore 2. I think this is just a solid stat card. Great in limited format. Hopefully you get about 1 or 2 of these. That Restore is going to come in handy, and it's going to force your opponent to want to have to deal with these small units because even though they only deal 2, that restore is really going to add up. That's everything I have for you today when it comes to playing Gar Saxon at your pre-release for Shadows of the Galaxy. Let me know how it goes. Let me know in the comments if you end up playing Gar Saxon yourself and what worked for you, what didn't. Wish you luck. And lastly, may the Force be with you.